Hey guys, it's your best boxing friends. I'm Kelsey. This is Rachel. Max Kellerman said something problematic. Again, Max. Basically, during the Artur Beterbiev's 10th round knockout win over Alexander Volstik, Max was describing what happened in the fight and said that Volstik quit on his stool, I think is the exact wording of the phrase. And everybody's losing their minds because of what Max said. That's basically the setup. What he was trying to say was that, I thought, at least this is how I interpreted it when it happened, was that Volstik quit trying to win the fight. And
I observed,
and that's true.
like
He
I
did
said,
quit trying to win the fight.
that something changed on the interior for Volstik.
Yeah, probably all the damage that he was suffering from the punches.
So I wonder if more of the issue is less with what Max said, because, like, what are we holding up, like, sports commentators to like use like the exact right word at all times on a live broadcast? You know what I mean? I feel like it's a high bar that we're setting, and I feel like maybe more of the problem is how we all think of the word quit.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because overseas, a fighter will be losing a fight, and instead of going on to take the punishment that would do, he will just stop fighting. And he's not called a quitter. Like, that's more part of the culture over there. Here, if you say that somebody quit, there's a negative connotation to a fighter quitting. It's like this made up concept or whatever, that fighters aren't supposed to quit because of Rocky movies and because of other fighters or whatever.
Right.
But the reality is
it's okay to quit.
Yeah, I think that, like, the idea that you can't keep yourself from experiencing harm is ludicrous. Like, I think it's dumb. So I think the answer is, who cares what people say? I mean, that's the answer. Like, who cares how Max Kellerman described it in the heat of the moment? Like, it shouldn't matter what he should.
I think we can
what
all,
he says.
like, I would find
it's not an issue.
Difficult for anybody to say, well, yeah, like, there was a difference between seeing a fighter who is like 100%, I believe I can win, I'm going to do whatever, like, all the rounds until either somebody else stops it or they get knocked out, versus like what we saw. And I saw somebody, those last like rounds, he was getting just like battered. I mean, when we talked about Beterbiev, I remember I compared him to Hurd in that kind of like big, he just keeps coming. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it just slowly beats you down until you can't, like, and so the word avalanche was used, like, and so I think, like, the same thing is being described. I think people just have a problem with the word quit. And that's a really big thing in our American culture. Like, quitters never win. Winners never quit. Like, this whole thing about quitting, parents will raise up their children, right? Like, well, if you sign up for it, you're going to finish it to the end. Instead, like, and it makes you, like, I get, like, the thing of wanting to instill in somebody like this idea of doing your best all the time. But hey, sometimes I'm a grown adult, Yeah. I can make a decision, I can discern, and I can look and I'd be like, hey, this isn't working for me anymore.
Yeah. And Bostic, like, he fought a really good fight against Beterbiev. He was ahead on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. I tend to think that probably if you have 10 judges, only 2 of them would have him ahead in that fight.
I'm all for more judges.
But the way it worked out, he was competitive in the fight. He had a good game plan. He just couldn't. He wasn't elite. I said that before the fight. Maybe I said it on Instagram. You should follow us on Instagram if you're not. But I don't think he's elite. I think he's a really good fighter, but I don't think he's elite. And I think Beterbie's elite. And that proved itself out over the course of the fight. He quit trying to win the fight, whether it was from he couldn't muster up anything else because of the physical toll that took on his body, whether just it was too hard. Like, sometimes a fighter will get in a fight and everything he tries, the other guy's just right there ahead of him. He's one step ahead of him. That will Floyd Mayweather stopped a lot of opponents like that because he's always one step ahead of you, hitting you back with lasers. And that can become frustrating. And maybe that forces you to quit when fight. Now, he went to the hospital, I think, after the fight. So obviously he should have quit trying to win the fight if he was going to end up in the hospital overnight because of the beating he sustained. But I don't know why there's this. The worst part about it to me isn't so much the Twitter outrage, because that's what Twitter is. It's outrage, emotional outrage over things that really don't affect your life. If you're honest with yourself on Twitter, the things that you're all upset about has nothing to do with your life. But what I don't like to see is when I read people that are in the business, like Kevin Iole wrote an article about what Max Kellerman said and how it was just and he brought up the tragedies that we have in our sport and how dare Max do this or that. I never like to see that unless it's really worthwhile doing it. If you're talking about, it's not like Max said anything outrageous, or it's not like Max didn't say anything that hasn't been said before on the air in a fight. You're also never going to be perfect at describing what happens in real time live. You're never going to be perfect at it. And the idea that you could be or should be is ludicrous, especially when as a writer like myself or anybody that's a writer, you don't have to be perfect because you get to rewrite everything and stuff.
Well, there's
like
also a certain amount of assumption that went into this. So the assumption behind when Max said he quit, this is what it means.
Yeah.
Instead of like just that it wasn't a reflection on the fighter's character.
Yeah, he didn't present it that way. He didn't think that Bostic should go back out there and get beat down more.
Referring to this like specific fight. I think it would be like a different matter if you were continuously saw a boxer in the ring, which we probably wouldn't see him if this continued to happen, of just not going out there to fight or quitting or whatever you want to call it over and over again. You'd have some question about like maybe this isn't like the thing for you or like whatever it is. But like I felt like this was a one-time thing to recognize that there was definitely a shift in the way he was fighting. And then the fight ended. Like I felt like what is that called? Like you're extrapolating or whatever you're doing. You're just applying like a whole thing to like a very simple like remark.
Yeah, I think you're conflating different issues. You're bringing different issues to something that has nothing to do with what happened. Because again, watching it in real time, never did I think that Max Kellerman was saying anything disparaging about Bostic or anything like that. I thought he was just trying to describe what he saw happening in the fight, which was that as the fight wore on, it became less and less competitive, and Bostic somewhere along the way stopped trying to win the fight. He quit trying to win the fight because for whatever reason, like maybe his body couldn't do it anymore, or maybe his mind couldn't do it, or both. And I thought that was a fair analysis of what I saw in the fight too. I hate also having to come here and talk about this dumb crap, Rachel. Okay. I think that like there's so much outrage.
Fine.
I think there's so much outrage over the silliest things.
I think
that
when
boxing
people
never moves forward.
If they can express themselves, I would like to see expression done with more like compassion and understanding. But when people express things, I think that's how discussion happens. If people had thoughts about what Max said, but nobody said anything, then the discussion never gets to happen.
Well, then maybe they're doing all these other secret behaviors that like they numb out on stuff, or they're stuffing themselves with food.
Oh, because they don't express themselves?
So maybe you're right.
So I think it's
you're
okay, just if we can all express ourselves with like some charity, you know, without like attacking, name calling. I think anytime name calling, like if I enter into a place where I'm calling people like dumb idiots or worse, that could be just a clue for me.
That's like, problematic.
I've entered into something that's no longer healthy and effective. So like, but I think the discussion is okay.
Yeah, I guarantee you that Kellerman will watch the way he uses that particular word now, going forward. Although at the same time, he takes a lot of flack. The higher you climb in boxing, the more flack you're going to take.
Can we just say all sports commentators have a really hard job?
I mean, all the hate I see about Joe Buck
like an ongoing basis.
In the World Series, everybody hates Joe Buck. Everybody hates this guy. You know, they just hate the people that are at the top, and some of that's probably not motivationally sound. Like the motivation behind that.
Well, it's one of those things where it's just easy to be a critic. It's easy
to
not be speaking on a live broadcast and criticize like, oh, that word was imperfect, or oh, they tripped over themselves when they did that, or whatever it is. They wore like this weird tie, or they did like this. And really, it wasn't until like social media
Everybody
because
got this platform to
that I
say
started
every little
noticing
thing.
like how critical I was.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, because it was almost like social media was a mirror for me that I could hold up, and I saw myself. And I went, oh, Rachel, maybe you should give sports commentators like a break. You should cut them some slack. Like it helped me to see how I was like critical and negative of people I was seeing on TV.
That's good. Cut people slack. Be compassionate. Be kind. Like, comment, and subscribe to Real Talk with Kelsey and Rachel. That's the best way that you could probably, it's one of the key steps, I think, into becoming the best you.